Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Xsolla sessions in San Francisco 2026. We have our next speakers up, direct-to-consumer on PC. The next revolution in gaming is already here. We're going to welcome to the stage Chris Cheever and his guest, Alvin Rabary.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today and taking time out of what I can only assume is a very busy GDC schedule. As the voice of God had said, this is the direct-to-consumer on PC talk here at GDC. I'm Chris Cheever. I've been in the game industry or the tech industry for a little over 11 years now. Prior to Xsolla, I worked at AT&T doing software QA basically. Prior to that, I was at a game QA company for a couple years. So I was in the trenches. I've been at Xsolla for just over 7 years now. So prior to this, I've done things on the tech side of Xsolla. I've done things in the project management side, but I've been doing the BD for roughly around 6 years now, really focusing on the PC side of things. And as you can see, I've launched a little over 100 different PC gaming stores doing the direct-to-consumer.
Thank you for having me. I'm Alvin. I work at Microids. I'm the head of digital sales, and I've been in the company for already 12 years so far. And I've been starting from scratch as an intern, and now leading the team and the strategy for the digital sales. So meaning working, discussing with first parties like Sony's, Nintendo, or discovering new channels like putting games on a plane or anything else. So my role is really to put my games anywhere players can play.
Thanks for being here. All right, so just kind of diving into it, we're going to do a kind of a brief overview of what direct-to-consumer is in a general sense, as well as kind of the current state of the market. I don't think this is really a surprise or news to anybody. You know, this has been a thing for a long time. You can see a number of different studios, Riot, Ubisoft, EA, Rockstar, Take-Two and their subsidiaries. They've all been doing a digital sales strategy directly to players for a long time, utilizing their own channels and building their own brand. If you're playing World of Warcraft, you're not playing it on Steam, you're in the BNet launcher, you're buying things directly from Blizzard. Path of Exile is obviously a giant success case with this, as is Final Fantasy XIV and ESO. Just kind of going over some numbers, just through Xsolla ourselves back in 2025, we did over $1 billion in transactions processed through us. One of the benefits, which we're going to get into more in just a second, is doing direct-to-consumer, you save on platform fees. And so by utilizing us as a channel for this, we were able to save partners over $280 million just on these platform fees. A little bit of extra data points, just for everybody's sake of mind. There's more than 1,000 different games using us for this, and a lot of those games actually saw anywhere over $100,000 to $10 million just through us. So diving into what is this, how do you do it, how do you be successful with this, what are some of the myths? We're kind of going to break all that down. So, just to be abundantly clear with this is not something that we're saying that you should do and don't launch on Steam. You want to be where your players are. And if you're a PC player, you're playing on Steam. So this is talking about kind of building a sustainable hybrid model. So I know that Microids really is pushing this forward. So I'd love for you to kind of talk to that and talk about the strategy surrounding that.
Yeah, so originally doing a store for Microids wasn't the first objective. Like, the story of building a store for us was because the demands and needs from the head of communication, he was working on a campaign with influencers and say, okay, can we do vouchers, discounts, something like that, so we can convert directly from a stream, from live stream to direct sales. And I was like, okay, we cannot do it on Steam, and we cannot do it right now. And this is the original story, and we are like, okay, so we need our own store. We got our website, so we decided to actually add a new layer of sales on the website, and we go through different services, and Xsolla seems to be like the right candidate for us, and we went through it. And now we have full stores with all our catalogs around it, and we play it with also for pre-orders campaign and so on. So yeah, this is how it was originally.
Yeah, and so as Alvin had said, the whole point of this D2C is to create an ecosystem that allows you to have a direct line to your players, allows you to communicate with them in the way that you see fit, allows you to have a lot of flexibility. And as we're about to show, what are the other parts of this that would play into this being an actually value add for the company? Prior to moving over to that, though, I'd love to get an idea of when it came to Microids moving into this sector, was the biggest value prop the fact that it allows you to have that flexibility that Steam doesn't allow? What was kind of the idea in a general sense of trying to scale up the Microids D2C brand?
Yeah, I think you put the point on this. It's actually the timing flexibility that it offers for us. Because when you launch on Steam, you cannot do always your pre-orders anytime you want during the journey of the players. And now with the D2C, you actually control better when you want to start your phase of awareness, your phase of pre-order, etc., conversion. And this is one of the good benefits that we had. Like now we don't wait 1 month before the release to start pre-orders. We are like, okay, we've got different timeline key bits, marketing key bits that we have for 1 year. And why don't we start pre-ordering earlier and give the opportunity to the player to have the opportunity to actually have to buy, because sometimes people want to buy earlier. People want to support you earlier in your campaign. So why not reduce the friction?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So just to really underline, what direct-to-consumer is actually giving as a value prop. Obviously, when you're selling something on Steam, you're going to be selling. You're going to be incurring Steam's platform fees. That eats into margins. So that can be 30% for most companies. As we had already kind of detailed here, you have a direct relationship with your audience. So you're going to be able to build that brand recognition with your player base and be able to engage them in ways that you wouldn't be able to engage them off of Steam. So I would just kind of like to field a question to you in terms of, I know that one of the challenges with this is getting it started. So how did you build out a strategy to start this? And then once you did, how did you determine what you should iterate on to make this more and more successful over time?
Yeah, we actually didn't have any idea how to run D2C to begin with. So we were just in the learning phase back in 2024. And we just start learning from it and try to improve every time we do a new release. We start a new campaign, a new pre-orders, a new life cycles, etc. So yeah, we learn it from scratch, and now I would say, yeah, we try to do better. We track KPIs now and sales, but the thing is, we weren't thinking about like just launching and it's gonna run itself by itself, So we were already okay, we got for instance last year we've got the Smurf movie because we are working with different IPs like the Smurfs, and there was a theater movie coming out last year, and we were like, okay, we need to do something around it, around these bits. So we try to be creative when we try to run the stores, and we created a specific landing page for all the Smurfs IP. We put demos, like cloud gaming demos, directly on the store, so it helps players or future buyers to actually try the game before they buy. So yeah, I think we need to be creative and not just put keys and just open a front page. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really important to underline that the creativity angle with this. This isn't like Field of Dreams where you're just gonna build it and people are gonna show up and buy stuff. If I work in this industry, this is kind of a big thing that I do, and I also fall prey to, I'm on Steam, I'm just gonna buy it. So as a player, why am I taking the extra time to go to a website and buy something? And chances are the people that are going to go to the website and buy something are the bigger fans of the brand, of the studio, of the IP. what do those fans like? They like exclusive things. I want a cool digital wallpaper. We did a pre-order campaign with Techland for Dying Light 2, where they actually had an exclusive wallpaper during their pre-order phase, which wasn't on Steam, because Steam's obviously, depends on the day whether or not you can do a pre-order. And they saw, I think it was roughly 7% of their overall revenue came through with just the pre-orders. And it was mainly because of that exclusive digital wallpaper. There was another indie studio that we worked with that did a game called The Last Friend. And so this is where kind of like the creativity really can kind of take off. They had a bundle that you could buy where they would then email you and ask you for a picture of your dog. And then they would create an in-game asset of the dog and send it back. And so then you would have this kind of exclusive thing that really at the end of the day only you have. They kind of dovetailed that into reaching out to influencers. They would get the influencer's dog into the game, and then the influencer would start streaming it and drove traffic to the website through affiliate sales. So really kind of the world is your oyster when it comes to being creative. Obviously, there's a lot of Steam restrictions that you need to adhere to. Price parity is one of them, nothing in-game that's exclusive to the site. You need to also offer it on Steam itself. But when it comes to things that you can't do on Steam, like the influencer sales, pre-orders, doing these sort of exclusive digital items that aren't pertinent to the game, that the world's your oyster. I'd love to know, are there, when you're doing this stuff, like the sandbox testing ability, has that been like a big value add for Microids?
Yeah, actually it did, because one cool thing is that you can have KPIs, like when you run an ads campaign, like doing A/B testing, you want to try your which keywords or which words are using tags or are better, in terms of performance. And the fact that you can see the traffics, you can see the traffic directly where it comes, etc. It's this thing that is really helpful to learn. Like, okay, we know that this keyword is working. We know that this word is working better for this type of audience that we are looking for. So we can use this knowledge to build the campaign at launch, etc., etc. So yeah, it's learning things, and yeah, it's working well.
The trackability is another big value prop here, is the fact that you can see when you're starting to do marketing, what user base is buying what. Maybe a specific user base in Brazil finds a specific marketing channel that you're using more advantageous than a channel that you might be trying to deploy in the States. And so you can really kind of do sort of gauging how your performance marketing is working out and try to reallocate resources. And then you can also see what sort of packs or what potential microtransactions that they're buying on the website. And you can really hone in on, okay, Latin America likes this price point. Why don't we really start curtailing that to that sort of region? And one of the points down here says gain access to new payment methods. With us, with Xsolla, we have over 1,000 payment methods. So if you're looking to get in a specific market in the world, we give you that direct channel. And coinciding with the point that I just said about tracking your users is that you can go, wow, this group of people in India like this specific payment method. On the website, you can actually start doing promotions with those payment methods. You can reduce price, and that payment provider can start providing incentives to the user and help you promote the channel. Again, this just all coincides with the ecosystem being an open, flexible staging environment to try to build your brand. So what I'd like to ask you is, on that building your brand topic, have you found that there's been a little bit more brand recognition around Microids as a whole by having a D2C site, or has it at least increased awareness of specific IPs?
I don't know in terms of brand recognition, but because we are not putting the D2C, the stores itself in front of people, so we are just putting Microids websites. So I don't know. It's not something that we actually look at.
Got it. Yeah. Well, the reason why I make that point is because sometimes one of the other aspects of this is, D2C is a very long-term play. This isn't something that you're going to just set up and then it's going to work instantly. This is a long-term investment where it's really trying to create an ecosystem for your community. During like the winter Steam sale, I'm just buying games. If there's a specific genre, I'm just going to buy a ton of them. Sometimes I don't know what the developer is. I don't know who the publisher is. Then all of a sudden, 2 days later, my buddy's sending it over to me and going, "Oh, dude, did you know that this company made this game?" That just happened with a company called Cathedral Studios. And no, I had no clue. If you're doing a sort of direct-to-consumer channel, you know the studio the page that you're on. You know what you're buying. You know who you're buying it from. There's more visibility into that, and I think that's kind of another value add there.
Yeah, it's actually a new layer. It's kind of, I see D2C more as an extension of you already build with your community. Like, it's not gonna, you're not gonna sell games just by putting a landing page. It actually needs to come from somewhere. If you work on your Discord, on your social media, etc., and you have to actually take this source and drive them to your stores, and this is a new layer that helps actually, convert better, and gives the opportunity to the player to have access to direct channels, giving you a better percentage revenue that you can have on the other platforms. So it's an extension of your community, and.
Yeah, and I think something that's really important is to kind of underline who this is for. Yeah. If you're an indie that's making your first game, it's a brand new IP. You have no community. You have no direct channel into influencers. It's probably best to just go on Steam. This isn't something that you should be focused on at the current stage. That's not to say this isn't something that you could do later, but Steam's where the players are. Steam's where you're probably going to see the most traction. If you're someone like Microids, or a studio that has some sort of title or IP that you're working with that has brand recognition, you have some basis of a community. Maybe it's one of the games that's really started to take off on Discord. That's where this really starts to pick up traction.
Yeah, and on our side, we got like 30, 40 titles in our catalog, so it actually makes sense to build our own store and animate the stores with different discounts and so on. But I think, for small developers or publisher, it actually makes sense if it's really thought early on in your marketing, in your strategy, global strategy. Because I see it as, think about like Kickstarters. Like, if you give the tools or the opportunity to your players to actually support you earlier in the stage of the developments and so on, it's a good thing. And this is what it is about Kickstarters, and this is a way of seeing as well pre-order campaign with D2C. Like, if you want, you can support us by buying earlier. You can also have, if you think about incentives for the players, like, because one cool thing you can do with Steam is that you can create a specific package, call it like a pre-order Xsolla package, and you can actually update this package anytime you want. Like, for instance, you can have like behind-the-scenes videos that you can put in like 2 months after the release and so on. So it's kind of a reward for early adopters that you can think. So the only thing is it needs to be thought. It needs to be relevant with your games and your strategy and your community.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to say over the last, 8, 9, maybe even a decade, the ability for developers to communicate directly with their audience has changed. Before you'd go on Reddit and maybe someone would post something, like a developer would post something, it'd be an AMA. Now you have a Discord. Like, you can literally go into Discord for almost any game and tag one of the developers. That's crazy. When I was young, thinking about the ability to do that with if I'm dying over and over in Sonic and Knuckles, I couldn't tag the developer and be like, yo, what is going on here? Now you can. And so, like Alvin just said, if this is a sort of plan that you see the availability of this audience that's sitting there, that they want to support you because you're engaging with them all the time. There's so many studios that I'm in a Discord for that their Discord community is huge. that's a perfect sort of instance where you want to do direct to consumer. If you're one of the new, and I don't like the term friend slop because it almost sounds negative, but there's all these friend slop style games that are coming out, which all end up having relatively large communities because it's a co-op game. Everybody wants to get in there and talk about like what their friend did to them, and then they start sharing stories. Those are great community channels that you could start thinking about, okay, how am I going to continue to foster this in my own sort of ecosystem? Because when you hand over these users to Steam, you really lose them. You know, the users on Steam, they're going to buy on Steam, they're going to continue to interact on Steam. Yeah, they might go back on Discord, but you've lost that sort of point of purchase. And you want to kind of drive home the fact that like really it supports you. It supports the developer more doing direct. It doesn't support you as much doing Steam. And at the end of the day, the community wants to support the developer. Yeah, so Alvin, I would love for you to talk kind of through what you've seen in terms of like how do you measure success with these sort of direct-to-consumer sites that you've set up in these point of purchases?
To be honest, at the beginning, we didn't have any thought of, okay, we need to have like X units sold, X revenue, etc. As I mentioned earlier, it was more measuring success by learning. Like, did we get to know how it performs, how it behaves? Like, okay, if we do this, how it's going to behave? And it was much more like a learning. We measure success by learnings. But now that we've got like almost 1.5 years of experience with it, we are like much more like, okay, now do we improve? Like, okay, we did the sales back with the Smurfs. Like, if we do another one with another IPs, what can we do more and better to actually improve, and does it work or not? Yeah, it's still learning phase, but now that we have more KPIs, more data around how it performs, previously we measure success on increasing the performance, and we've seen it's actually improved compared to the first month. So yeah, so it's working.
That's great. Yeah, and as you can see on the slide, this is really just kind of talking about a lot of the points that we already hit. You know, what are you adding to the pack that makes a user actually want to buy it? How are you communicating it? And then one of the things that you do need to keep in mind is obviously stay within Steam's guidelines. So you got to have the price parity. Something that I do want to kind of talk through is sort of the myths surrounding doing direct. One of the big myths being that Steam will have some sort of retribution that they want to rain down on you or something by doing direct. Has that happened to Microids at all?
No, nothing. No. We are kind of free about what we want to do outside of Steam or anything. So yeah, no issue or anything like this.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank God. Yeah, so one of the other myths being like the sort of cannibalization of, all right, I'm selling outside of Steam, that's going to cannibalize any sort of Steam-related traffic. It's going to screw up my algorithm. It's going to screw up my wish list because I'm selling outside. Has that been an instance for Microids?
Actually, you kind of, sometimes you are thinking at Microids, I set it up with the team and I said, because some people want to launch pre-orders on Steam. I'm the kind of guy who is saying, sometimes better not to do pre-orders on Steam because if it's not a success, it's actually going to harm the overall algorithm on how you're going to be seen on the stores, etc. So it actually impacts. If you do bad pre-orders, it can actually impact your visibilities at the launch. So it's kind of having your control of outside of Steam is actually good because it's not going to impact the algorithm. It's not going to impact anything on the wish list or on the conversion. Actually, it's even great to have like you already have a lot of Steam keys sold, and if they meet at the launch, it's actually good to have all the players already available at launch. But there's no friction between doing pre-orders outside than on Steam.
And that's essentially what we've seen as well, is that we haven't really seen any sort of cannibalization when you're selling outside of Steam. It's a different environment, it's a different ecosystem, it allows different things. When users are going back to Steam and redeeming the keys, there's a bigger user base than on Steam. There's still traffic through that sort of game, which is going to boost the sort of algorithm. The cannibalization topic about wish lists versus pre-orders, the person wish listing the game is a different person than the person that's going to pre-order at the end of the day. Wish lists at this point is exactly what that's called, is a wish list. And a lot of people use it as watch lists. You know, I have 215 games in my wish list. I'm not going to buy all of them, but I do want to keep an eye on them. And that's why you've seen over the years wish list conversion has started to taper off, because people are using it as a tool to pool all the games that they're interested in, but maybe they're not going to convert. Whereas the type of person that's going to pre-order is a different user in general than the person that's just going to sit there and do a wish list. This also kind of coincides, you know, there's always this topic about visibility on Steam. And like you had said, like the pre-order aspect will increase visibility, because as people will redeem the game, like I just said, that will actually affect your algorithm in a positive way. The amount of wish lists that you need to get visibility is extremely high. And the conversion rate on wish lists is not very high. So it's all about trying to convert the user and embolden your own community. When it comes to the pre-order campaigns and the things that Microids has done, have you seen any success with doing like sort of early access with influencers and driving pre-orders? Has that been something that Microids has considered?
Yeah, we are considering it for future titles, and because we never had the opportunity to actually use the vouchers, because we launched the website after we launched the game, but we wanted to use as vouchers. So yeah, it's going to be in our roadmap for future games that we want, that we have campaigns, influencer campaigns, and going to add the vouchers and so on, stuff like this. But yeah, it's in our plan. Yeah.
Nice. Cool. Yeah. So, in a general sense, just kind of like to tie a bow on everything, the whole point of direct to consumer is to give you access to your user base that you wouldn't get access to otherwise. It allows you flexibility. It allows you to be as creative as you are as a developer, and really sort of have a direct line to your audience and engage them in ways that you wouldn't be able to otherwise. You know, at Xsolla, we give you all the abilities to do this. We give you the tools to do this, whether it's influencer affiliate sales tools, website building, doing any sort of transaction services. But the world's your oyster with this. I really want to underline the fact that this is a long-term play, as I said before. This isn't, you're going to build the page, it's going to work exactly how you want it to, and everything's going to work well. You have to put effort into this. There's a big effort that needs to go into making this a sort of viable strategy, and it needs to be a long-term play that you think over, you know, every single iteration of the game, every single new launch, you know, changing the website up, making it new and fun, and engaging the user base, because there needs to be a reason why the player goes there. Alvin, do you have any sort of closing thoughts or closing topics?
No, I think it's been useful for us, and we still a lot of things to learn, D2C, and we are here on the long play. As you mentioned, it's a playground for us. Like, we can test many things with the cloud gaming part as well, and yeah, it's really we are learning a lot of things through this, actually.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Well, thank you for coming to the talk. Thank you, Alvin.
Thank you for
helping out here. And anyone that has any questions, we do have some time. Otherwise, everyone can get back to their speed dating.
Yeah, I have one question.
Oh, hang on. Thank you.
Hey,
Hey.
Alvin, a question for you. So, if it's not a secret, how much of your time relatively do you guys invest in this?
Actually, not so much, because we are not building ourselves the website or the stores.
Yep.
It's actually plug and play. Like, okay, I want this like this, and you can just play however you want. So it's actually easy. You actually need to thought about how you want to layer and put things on the page, but there's actually like templates that exists, and sometimes there's other publishers who already have a good template, so we just need to copy how they works. And so it's actually quite easy, or yeah, it's really simple. Yeah, the team didn't have any experience in it, and they learn really quickly. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, everybody. Oh, we got a straggler.
That was my nickname in high school. Alvin, thanks so much for being here. You mentioned shifting from, your first year was kind of learnings. Now you've got KPIs. I'm curious, like outside of direct sales, what KPIs are you looking at for your direct to consumer presence outside of like the bottom line?
I think one of the things that we start looking at more is conversion compared to with the visit, because it's something that you can have on Steam, but you cannot really track all the funnel. This is what is interesting. Like, okay, we've got like 1,000 visits, and from this, how many actually convert? How many went through the carts, and how many people had how many units in that cart, and how many failed the payment, and how many people actually close and make the payment. So it's really interesting. It's things that we don't have the full, I would say, journey of the player, of the buyers, and this is something that it's really interesting to look at, like the conversion. Yeah.
Nice. Cool. Thank you, everybody.